Have you ever added up all the time that you've spent working on a product and realized that you made like $3 an hour? Yeah, I've been there. Developing handmade products with good margins is hard, mainly because handmade products are to some degree made by hand, and making things by hand is slow and time is a costly resource. In fact, that's going to be a big theme of this video. Time is money. As makers, we lots of times forget that because we love our work and we get excited about it and we just love doing it. However, you gotta make strong enough margins to keep doing the work. So where you can free up time, you can increase profitability and make more money. So in this video, I'm sharing 9 overlooked ways to increase your profit margins on your handmade products. I've done just about all of these at one point or another, so I know that they work. In fact, number 8 is my favorite and also possibly the most controversial. So make sure to stick around for that one. But before I get started, if we haven't met yet, my name is Melissa. I run a brand design studio by day and a handmade product business by night. And on this channel, I love to share tips for running your handmade business that I have learned along the way in hopes that it can help you out somehow. Okay, so before I dig into all the different ways that you can potentially increase your profit margins, let's talk about what exactly a profit margin is. Now, you guys might already know this, but just in case we've got any baby business owners, I thought it would be a good idea to go over it. Profit margins are basically what is left in your pocket after you sell an item. It's the difference between what it cost you to make the product and what you sold it for. So if you sell a candle for 20 bucks, but it costs you $8 in the jar, the wax, the wick, the label to make that candle, that means you have $12 in profit or a 60% profit margin. The dollar amount's the profit and the percentage is the profit margin. If you're just a casual hobbyist, these numbers might not mean much for you. But if you're trying to grow your business into something that is actually self-sustaining, they're pretty important numbers, particularly if you think you ever want to wholesale your product at some point in time. That's a whole video in and of itself, and I hope to make one about that sometime in the future. Once you have a clear view of your profit margins, it changes the way you look at your projects and which ones are actually worth your time to keep making. So now that we have that out of the way, let's talk about the 9 different ways that you can potentially increase your profit margins on your handmade products. The first way that you can increase your profit margins is to assemble your products in batches. Well, there's not a direct monetary gain there. When you assemble your products in batches, you get into a bit of a flow state, and it tends to be the most productive and efficient, least time-consuming way to assemble your products. For some people, that's going to be just sitting down and making a whole bunch of the products. For other people, that might be sitting down and doing individual phases of the products. So for me, if I'm packing greeting cards, I will sit down and pack greeting cards for maybe 3 hours, but I always fold all the greeting cards first, then I sleeve them all, then I band them all into cases. So I don't fold 6, sleeve 6, band 6 into a case. I do each step of the process by itself because I can fold 50 cards much faster if I'm just folding 50 cards than if I'm folding a card, sleeving it. Folding a card, sleeving it. It sounds a little crazy, but trust me, you will move faster if you batch things. If you're just trying to make a product one-off when you need it or right before a market, it's always slower because you maybe haven't done it in a while or something like that. But if you sit down and make 20 of something, 50 of something, 100 of something, you'll get in this flow state and they'll all move quicker. The less time you have invested to make those, the higher the profitability on that item, because your time does cost something in this whole process, right? So stop and think about how you can break down making your product into logical steps. This may require rearranging your workspace slightly so that you can work faster, or investing in assistive tools that can help you assemble things faster. So that's one way to save time, but let's look at the other side of the equation, which is buying those supplies. Let's talk about bulk ordering. So the second way you can increase your profit margins is by bulk ordering your supplies. When you bulk order supplies, often they'll end up costing you less per piece. I actually just did that with card sleeves. I didn't technically need 5,000, but It saved me 40%. This can take a little time to ramp up. I know I was freaked out the first time that I had to order like 100 of something. And then I was freaked out the first time I had to order more than 100 of something. It is scary to invest that money and you're like, what if this product stops selling tomorrow? Keep records of how much of each supply that you go through. That way, when the time comes to reorder, you might be going through more than you think you are, and understanding the quantities of how much you've been going through can kind of ease that feeling of anxiety or paranoia of placing a big order. If you can tell yourself, well, I made 50 of those in the last 3 months, or I made 100 of those in the last 3 months. There's 2 bonuses to ordering supplies in bulk. First of all, is if you can also catch a sale. That's a wonderful time to order in bulk. Not all supply companies run sales, but definitely keep an eye out, or maybe do the email sign up to get that extra 10 or 15% off. And then the second bonus to ordering your supplies in bulk is that you actually save time ordering 1 time rather than 2, 3, 4 times smaller orders. You also save on shipping fees. So all of this translates to better profit margins in the long run. It might not be something you can do today, but definitely keep your eye on it and make that move at the first time that it makes sense for you. If your products are manufactured rather than put together by individual components, the exact same thing applies. The third way to increase your profit margins is to bulk order your manufactured products. The larger quantity that you can order, the more it drives down the cost per piece. Again, this has been my own experience. I started out with some products just ordering 25 or 50, and now I'm ordering 200, but I get a way better price on 200 than I did on 50. Once I kind of proved to myself that this product is selling, I've slowly ordered more and more and more, and that helps me be more profitable on that product. Again, it can take time to build up the confidence to do this. Continue to keep those records of how much you sell so that when the time comes to reorder, you can actually reassure yourself just how much of that product you have sold over the last few months. Same bonuses for this one. Try to look for a sale, and you're gonna save time ordering 1 big bulk order than ordering multiple smaller orders. With manufactured products, sometimes it's hard to find a sale, but sometimes you can, depending on what they are. Like if you're ordering like notepads, lots of online printers do run sales. Now, if you're having something bespoke manufactured in China or something like that, they probably don't run sales. But if it's at all possible, it always makes good sense to watch out for a sale if you can. Every little bit of money saved helps increase your profit margins. So bulk ordering can help make the vendors you're already working with more profitable, but you can also take a step back and ask yourself, is this even the right vendor? The fourth way to increase your profit margins is to price shop your products. If you do manufacture your products, you probably price shopped pretty intensely when you first started getting them made. But if it's been 6 months, a year, a couple years, it might be in your best interest to go back, do some more searching, get some more pricing from other vendors, and see if anyone can beat the price that you're currently paying for that manufactured product. While you're at this, it's also a good idea to occasionally recalculate your cost of goods sold, so what it cost you to make your product, from time to time, because lots of times vendors increase their prices by very small little margins, and when you see it go up a couple cents, you're like, meh, I can weather that. But if it does that 2, 3, or 4 times, you might be paying like a quarter more or 50 cents more for a product, and you're kind of completely unaware of it. So price shopping is definitely another way that you can potentially increase your profit margins. But one thing that a lot of people don't think about is the cost of doing everything yourself. So the fifth way to increase your profit margins is to consider what you can outsource. A lot of makers fall into the trap of doing everything themselves. They cut their own stickers, they print their own tags, they print their own thank you cards. Lots of times we do it that way because it feels cheaper, or because it's the only way we've ever done it, or because we're a handmade business. So every single thing on that product should be handmade, right? No. No. It's absolutely silly to print every sticker or every tag by yourself, because once you consider your time, you're most likely losing money on that item. Wouldn't you rather spend your time creating new product ideas or connecting with customers rather than trying to get your Cricut to cut your sticker paper? Consider what items of your product and your packaging you can potentially outsource. It's going to feel like it costs a lot the first time you do it, but the next time you go to pack an order and you don't have to print the tag first, you're gonna start to realize how much time is saved and how paying a few cents per piece to have a printer print them is a much better use of your resources. In fact, while you're at it, give some thought to whether or not there's any component of your actual product you can have manufactured. Products that I see handmade businesses making themselves that I don't think they need to be doing are stickers, greeting cards, art prints. Like, you should be outsourcing all of those things. There is no reason for you to be sitting there calibrating a printer trying to get this to work. It is a much better use of your time to make a new piece of art than print your art print yourself. And this doesn't have to be an all or nothing thing. You can outsource some elements and then hand make other elements. You can have one product that's a little more outsourced or manufactured and other products that are much more handmade. You may love making every single element of your product by hand, and if that's you, don't let me dissuade you. Like, do what you love. That's why we do handmade product businesses, right? Because we love doing them. But you're gonna have a really hard time growing to a point that the business can kind of support itself and support you if you're literally making every single tiny thing by hand, because there's only so many hours in a day and there's only so fast these two hands can work, right? I also want to take a minute to debunk the myth of a handmade product. Just because you don't hand make every single teeny tiny item of your handmade product does not mean it's no longer handmade. If you touch that product with your hands in some way, it is a handmade product. That might be making the art, it might be assembling it together. I have a lot of products that I have components made and then I assemble them. It's a product of my own mind and hands, but it's still a handmade product. It wouldn't exist without me making the design and deciding to bring it into the world. I think we need to talk about this more often, that every little item on it does not need to be handmade for it still to be considered a handmade product, and for people to still value it as an artisan handmade product. So if you want to grow your business, if you want it to become more self-sustaining, really give some thought to which elements of your products you can potentially outsource. And once you stop trying to do everything yourself, you might find yourself looking into your process. Which brings me to something a lot of makers overinvest in, and that is their product packaging. So the sixth way you can potentially increase your profit margins is to reduce your product packaging. I see a lot of makers really kind of overblowing their product packaging. And I get it. It's a handmade product. They want it to be this really like beautiful artisanal experience. And I think you should want it to be a nice experience. I am not saying don't do that. But what I am saying is try to find where's the line of what people actually appreciate, and consider which items you might be able to simplify. Can you standardize packaging so that maybe you don't use 2 or 3 different sizes of boxes, you use only one size of box, or 2 or 3 different sizes of cello sleeve, you only use one, or multiple sizes of product cards, you only use one. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that now your product is really yucky packaged. It just means maybe consider ways you can multi-purpose things or reduce elements. If you reduced your product from having 2 cards in it to 1 card in it, you literally just saved 50% on your product packaging. So it's definitely worth some consideration. Also, if you remove components from your product packaging, you will save time because there'll be less steps to package every product. And what's our favorite thing to say? Time is money. So if we can save time, we have also saved money. And it's not just the product packaging, your shipping packaging deserves some scrutiny as well. So the 7th way to increase your profit margins is to reduce your shipping packaging. Lots of times I see makers just sticking tons of stuff in these packages. Does your customer really want a thank you card, a mini art print, a sticker, a belly brand wrapping everything, and you put all of that in a bag, which you put the bag in a box? I literally watch people do this on YouTube, and every time I see it, I'm like, oh my gosh, packaging your product must cost you so much money. And here's the thing, I love those things, but when I order from a maker and it comes with all those things, I'm like, what am I supposed to do with these? And I end up throwing them away. So really consider if there's some stuff you can remove from your product packaging. Again, you still want it to be a really nice experience, but I don't think it needs to have all these freebies in it that people are putting in. You're just driving up your own costs, and I bet you a very small percentage of your customers truly appreciate those items. If you're not hearing over and over again about how people love that free sticker you put in or whatever, I would consider dropping it. I do think it's important to have a little thank you card, potentially with some contact information on it. I like to make mine into a little tiny mini print. I think that's a pretty popular thing to do, but here's the thing, it doesn't cost me anything extra to just put art on the back of the card. It's a nice way to kind of get something fun for the recipient, but also serve the purpose of the thank you message and the contact information without adding more stuff in. The other thing is it's going to save you time when you're packaging all of these up and not having to put all these things in there and take all these steps of wrapping one thing and then wrapping something else. Of course, you want your products to be well packaged in terms of not breaking, but I do think sometimes we get carried away with fun bags and bows and things like that, and we really just drive up the costs of our packaging and the amount of time it takes to ship an order for not really any good reason, aside from it's just fun. I do like to have fun in my business, but I also want my profit margins to stay as strong as possible. You can have a beautiful shipping experience without 27 extras, so consider what you can cut. You can also reuse packaging to ship your orders. I'm sure a lot of you have already thought about that, but I'm just including that in here because if you don't have to buy a box, that's some more money still in your pocket. Now that we've talked about trimming the product packaging on two different fronts, let's zoom out a little bit and talk about something that I don't hear a lot of people talking about. This is tip number 8, the one I was the most excited about. Let's look at your whole entire product lineup. Way number 8 to increase your profit margins is to reduce the number of things you're selling. Told you it was controversial. The message on social media and in business circles is always create more products, offer more things, more colorways, more sizes. But I think sometimes we let ourselves get a little in over our heads on too many options, too many products, too many sizes, too many colors. I know I've had that problem in the past. Creating new products or adding new colors or sizes is costly, both from the perspective of time and the perspective of money. Sometimes it does make sense, but sometimes it doesn't. So review your products. What's selling best? What's selling slower? Do you have any big wins? Do you have any big bombs? Get rid of those bombs, double down on the big wins. Can you simply discontinue unpopular colors or sizes? Sometimes it's easier to consider discontinuing options of an existing product rather than the whole product itself. When you have fewer products in your catalog, it means you can spend less time making things, less time buying products. It paves the way for being able to make those bigger orders of supplies and products because you're selling more of fewer things. And when you're selling more of fewer things and you're leveraging all these other ways of buying and making in bulk, it drives up your profit margins. And once you've simplified your product offering, there is one more lever you can pull. And it's both the most straightforward and the lever that most people are afraid to pull. Method number 9 to increase your profit margins is to raise your prices. It is not uncommon for makers to underprice their goods. I think we either feel bad for setting a fair price because we're afraid that it's going to feel expensive, or we think we'll sell more if we underprice it. You need to research your competitors, research your market, and keep researching your market because things change. And then you need to price in line with what other people are pricing their products at. If your product has more features than other people's products, you might be able to get a little bit more for it. Likewise, if you're honest with yourself that your product has fewer features or is maybe made in a slightly less durable manner, you may need to price it slightly lower. Unless your product is truly a commodity, meaning everyone expects the price of this to be the same everywhere all the time because it's truly exactly the same as your competitors, then pricing below your competitors won't necessarily translate to more sales. When it comes to artisan or handmade goods, most people buy them because they resonate with them, not because of the price. So when it comes to something like a sticker or a card, people are buying that because of the exact message or the exact art on it. It doesn't matter if yours is priced $1 cheaper than the one on the next shelf. If someone doesn't like the one on the next shelf, they're going to buy yours. Or if they like the one on the next shelf better, they're probably going to buy it, even if it's $1 more expensive. People are buying because they resonate with the style, with the message. So you're just doing yourself a disservice if you're trying to underprice in hopes of getting more sales. Most people buy handmade goods because they connect with them, because they resonate with them, not just because of the price. Even a small increase, 50 cents, $1, can make a big difference over the span of a year or multiple years. Especially if you want to do things like wholesale your products, you may need to raise your price in order to make that happen. So that's the list, but before I let you go, I want to leave you with one more thing to think about, because it's easy to take these tips too far. It's important to take a balanced perspective when you consider where you might be able to cut costs to improve your margins. All those little 10 cent, 25 cent add-ons in your product, they do add up. So when you're designing your product, really stop and consider, is that extra something that's going to cost 10 cents per piece, 25 cents per piece, 50 cents per piece? Is it valuable enough to your customer in order to merit the extra 50 cents or $1 or whatever you're gonna have to charge for that item? You always need to be balancing the savings with the value that your customer places on the product. Look for low value things you can cut from your product, packaging that will be thrown away, things that were add-ons that you've never heard a customer comment on. This is something that never ends. You need to constantly be reevaluating your products and your product lineup to see what can be cut. What are people valuing? What are they not valuing? Is there any way you can make this product for a little bit cheaper without losing the quality or everything that your customer loves about it? I'm 8 years in and I am still finding ways to streamline my product offering and improve my profit margins. So you guys got any other tips for improving your profit margins? If so, I want to hear them. Pop them in the comments for me. And if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. Thanks so much for watching to the end, and I will see you in the next one.